Welcome, everyone.
Recording
I
in
now call the
progress.
April 14th, 2026 regular City Council meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. At this point, we'll take a moment to take roll call of the council members by position number. Please say here when the city clerk calls your name.
Thank you. Councilmember Anguilari.
Here.
Mayor Thompson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Aldirks. Councilmember Kurd.
Here.
Councilmember Miles.
Here.
Councilmember Dodd.
Here.
Councilmember Alcabra.
Here.
All present with the exception of Deputy Mayor Aldirks, who is absent and excused.
Thank you. First up is meeting agenda approval. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to public engagement opportunities. We have a council in the community event. They are back. You can stop by to chat with your city council members, or at least 3 of us. You can ask questions, share feedback, and learn more about city services and priorities. It'll be Saturday, April 18th at the Bothell Fire Station 42 from 10 a.m. to noon. Celebrate Earth Month throughout April. You can celebrate Earth Month with us and our partners with events and activities for the whole family. Learn, connect, and make a difference for our environment. Upcoming events include Earth Day celebration at Blythe Park, Saturday, April 25th from 1 to 4 p.m. Grow your small business. Applications are open for entrepreneurs and small businesses to participate in the Pop Shops on Main Small Business Incubator program. This program helps small businesses bring their vision to life in the heart of downtown Bothell. Apply by May 11th, 2026. All right, we have 2 proclamations tonight. Do you want to read? Go for it. Councilmember Dodd is going to read the first proclamation for Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope you get your voice back all the way soon. Whereas April 2026 marks the 25th anniversary of Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which draws attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and has implications for every community member. And whereas sexual assault is pervasive, every 68 seconds, someone is sexually assaulted in the United States, and in Washington State, 45% of women and 22% of men report having experienced sexual violence in their lifetime. And whereas sexual violence can impact people of any age, gender, religion, ethnicity, and identity, and has a disproportionate impact on people of color, immigrants, people in the LGBTQ+ community, people with disabilities, people between the ages of 12 and 34, women and girls, trans and gender non-binary people, and people at the intersections of these identities. And whereas 2/3 of sexual assaults are never reported to law enforcement. Sexual assault is among the most underreported crimes for many reasons, but survivors who are already most marginalized face additional barriers to reporting, such as language, immigration status, or disability. And whereas survivors of sexual assault may never forget their victimization, but they can heal with support from family, friends, and their communities. Sexual assault programs across King County and Washington State offer free and confidential support, advocacy, information, and resources to survivors. And whereas by working together as a community, we can alleviate the trauma of sexual violence by ensuring supportive resources are available to all survivors, while standing up to and actively disrupting harmful attitudes and behaviors that contribute to sexual violence. Now therefore I, not Mason Thompson, Mayor of the City of Bothell, do hereby proclaim April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the City of Bothell, joining advocates and communities across the country in taking action to prevent sexual violence by standing with survivors.
Thank you. And I'll do this one. This is for Vaisakhi and Khalsa Day.
Mayor Thompson, we have Alex Henry on the line to accept the proclamation.
Thank you. Alex, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to just jump past you. But
that's okay.
Feel free to say a few words.
Yeah, glad to be here. I'm Alex Henry. I'm a resident of Bothell and also a therapist who works at King County Sexual Assault Resource Center, which is a nonprofit that serves the city and all communities throughout King County. And I'm here to accept the Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month proclamation on behalf of our organization. And just thank you all for being a part of the solution to sexual violence. First, to the survivors in the community, I just want to say that you're not alone. Sexual assault is common. Half of women and 1/3 of men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime. People from marginalized communities due to disability, race, or ethnicity, or their gender or sexual identities, to name a few, are even at a greater risk. Chances are that you know someone who has been sexually abused. The trauma of sexual assault is something that can affect a survivor's mental, physical, behavioral health, their ability to form healthy relationships, remain in school or in the workplace, and so much more. But recovery from trauma and sexual assault is possible with support. CaseWork assisted 4,300 individual survivors and their family members in the last year alone, and almost half of CaseWork clients are teens and children. We know young people are the most vulnerable to sexual assault and also the least likely to speak up about it and to be believed when they do. I want to end with another message to survivors, which is that free and confidential help is available to survivors or anyone who needs information about sexual assault. And our 24-hour resource line is a good starting point, which is 888-99-VOICE. And we always say we can't change what we can't talk about. So thank you for your leadership and willingness to be loud about sexual assault.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, next up, we have a proclamation for Vaisakhi and Khalsa Day. Whereas Vaisakhi is one of the most significant celebrations in the Sikh calendar, marking both the Harvest Festival and the establishment of the Khalsa in 1699 by Guru Gobind Singh Ji, a pivotal moment in Sikh history that symbolizes sovereignty, justice, and devotion, and whereas the creation of the Khalsa represents a commitment to truth, equality, and the protection of the vulnerable, embodying values that transcend time and inspire individuals to uphold justice and dignity for all, and whereas Vaisakhi is a day of reflection for Sikhs worldwide, serving as an opportunity to recommit to the principles of Sikhism, including selfishness, courage, and community service, while celebrating the vibrant heritage and contributions of Sikh communities, and whereas this day also highlights the importance of unity and resilience, reminding us of the sacrifices made by Sikh leaders and communities throughout history to protect their faith and identity, and serves as a reminder of the enduring spirit of Vaisakhi and the Khalsa's commitment to justice, equality, and humanity. Now, therefore, I, Mason Thompson, Mayor of the City of Bothell, do hereby proclaim April 13th as Vaisakhi and Khalsa Day in Bothell and encourage all residents to join in recognizing this important occasion by learning about Sikh history, participating in community celebrations, and fostering understanding and respect for diverse cultures. And we have some members of the community here to accept.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, distinguished members of the City of Bothell Council, respected community leaders, families, members of the public. Thank you for gathering here in this moment of recognition and reflection. Today, the City of Bothell stands in proclamation to honor Vaisakhi and the Khalsa Day, an observance that carries deep historical, cultural, and spiritual significance for millions across the world. It is a day that speaks for renewal, courage, service, and enduring dignity of community rooted in truth and responsibility. This proclamation is more than symbolic. It is an acknowledgement of the living heritage and the contribution of a community whose values of service, equality, and resilience continue to enrich the social fabric of our shared civic life. My name is Harjeet, and I serve as an educator within the Northshore School District. And in the community partnership roles, supporting students' civic engagement, I'm here today as a facilitator capacity to help create a space for student voice within the proclamation setting. With that, I respectfully invite our Northshore School student, Justin Seddy, to the podium to share his prepared remarks. Thank you. Justin.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members, and respected community members. My name is Justin Singh Sani, and I'm a student in the Northshore School District. It is an honor to stand here today as we recognize Vaisakhi and Khalsa Day, an occasion that carries deep historical, spiritual, and cultural significance for Sikhs around the world. Vaisakhi marks the harvest season in Punjab, a time of gratitude, renewal, and community, but for Sikhs it holds an even deeper meaning. On Vaisakhi in 1699, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, the 10th Sikh Guru, established the Khalsa, a community committed to living with courage, discipline, equality, and service to humanity. At a time when injustice and oppression were widespread, this was a bold call to stand up for what is right, to defend the dignity of all people, and to live without fear. The Khalsa was founded on principles that remain relevant today. Equality, rejecting discrimination of caste, race, gender, and status. Service, putting others before self through acts like community kitchens that feed anyone regardless of background. Courage, standing up against injustice even when it might be difficult. And integrity, living truthfully and responsibly in society. These are not just Sikh values, they are universal values, they are American values. Here in Bothell and across the Northshore community, Sikh families contribute as students, educators, professionals, and volunteers. You may see us serving meals, supporting neighbors, or quietly showing up when help is needed. That spirit directly comes from the teachings of Khalsa. For students like me, Vaisakhi is also a reminder of responsibility. It really challenges us to ask, will we speak up when something is wrong? Will we treat others as equals? And will we contribute to something bigger than ourselves? As celebrating Vaisakhi is not just about remembering history, but it is also about living with those principles today. On behalf of the Sikh community, I thank the City of Bothell for recognizing Vaisakhi and Khalsa Day. This proclamation is more than a gesture. It is a statement that our shared values of unity, service, and respect matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you guys like to get a picture with the council? Yes. All right. Next up is public comment. The city has accepted public comment in writing as well as accepted signups for those who wish to speak at tonight's meeting. Written comments submitted to the city clerk no later than 3 p.m. today were forwarded to all city council members and are part of the record. When the clerk calls your name, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Please note the council will receive your input, but we do not engage in discussion of these topics. Staff will make note of items requiring follow-up. City clerk?
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. We've had no public signups this evening. However, if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak, please step to the podium, state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes. And if you're in the virtual audience, please use the raise hand function and we will panel you in. I have no one.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up is reports. First is the city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council members. We actually have quite a few things on for the city manager report tonight, so get comfortable. Sometimes I allude to all 4 of them at the same time, and we're going to go sequentially through that. So as Shelley comes to the table, I'm going to just do a quick shout out. Actually, one of my first emails of the day was from a former colleague wishing me happy birthday, and I was like, not my birthday. But if you weren't following along, April 14th, 1909 is when Bothell became an incorporated city. So from Mayor Bothell to Mayor Thompson, happy birthday. With that, then, tonight we do have the opportunity to hear from Shelley Halder, our state lobbyist with Gordon Thomas Honeywell, and we're excited to have Shelley here in person tonight during the session. It's hard to be anywhere but Olympia, and we wouldn't want her to be anywhere but Olympia, but so thrilled to have Shelley join us tonight and talk through what was a very busy session and wrap this one up. And as I've mentioned to several of you, it'll probably seem like tomorrow when we start looking 2 years ahead. So we'll be excited to do that work, and we're thankful for Shelley's support as we do it. And with that, I'll turn it over to Shelley to lead you through some of the lessons learned from the last few months.
Great, thank you. Good to be with you this evening, Mayor and Council. Good to see you in person. I am pleased to provide a report on the outcomes of the 2026 legislative session. But before I jump into tonight's presentation, I do just want to briefly describe the documents that you have included in your council packet. The first is a written report that goes into much more detail than I'm going to be able to cover this evening on issues that Bothell cares about. So this evening I'm going to cover the priorities and just a few of the additional issues that came up, but that written report goes into much more detail, so I'd encourage you to read that. There's also a document that outlines all of the bills that passed during the legislative session that have a nexus with city government. Some impact Bothell and others don't. That's intended to be a reference document for you. And then lastly, there's a chart that the Association of Washington Cities puts together, and I think it's just a really helpful tool to be able to quickly look at and find out, did the operating budget fund this? Did the transportation budget fund this? So again, a reference tool for you. So today there are 4 sections to my presentation. Sorry, it just looks slightly different, so I'm orienting myself. I'm going to start with an overview of the session. I'm going to talk about outcomes from Bothell priorities, talk about a few other topics that we were reacting to, not necessarily issues we initiated, but we engaged in, and then we'll wrap up by talking about next steps. So the 2026 session was the short session, so that was 60 days, and it was the second year of the biennium. Same as in the first year, Democrats still held strong majorities in both House and Senate, and so they set the priorities for the session. Some of the major themes that came up this session were responding to federal actions, prioritizing affordability for Washingtonians, and making a rather monumental shift in reforming the state's tax code. In addition to adopting 3 supplemental budgets, which is the primary purpose of a short session, the legislature also considered over 1,200 bills and ultimately passed 268. So the 3 supplemental budgets, of the 3, the operating budget is the largest, and it was the most challenging for the legislature to balance. And that's primarily due to the rising maintenance level costs for the operating budget, driven by both increased caseloads and expansion of programs based on recent policy changes. The supplemental operating budget increases spending by $2.4 billion. $880 million of that amount is funded by the state's budget stabilization account, which is also called the Rainy Day Fund. It's essentially the state's savings account. The operating budget balances also because of a $375 million transfer from the Public Works Assistance account, which is then backfilled with bonding capacity from the capital budget. The largest expenditure in the operating budget is $1 billion to cover the state's self-insurance liability premium. The other 2 budgets, both the transportation and the capital, are historically developed in a bipartisan fashion, and that was the case this year as well. The transportation budget adds $1.2 billion in additional spending, with vast majority of that focused on maintenance and preservation of the state's highway system, which includes the ferry system. And then the supplemental capital budget includes $889 million in additional investment. So the city has a practice of developing a legislative agenda to align with the state's 2-year cycle. And so in the second year of the biennium, we update the legislative agenda based on what was accomplished. So as a reminder, in 2025, the city requested funding for the Woodcrest Utility Improvement Project. The legislature awarded $1.5 million to that project. And so that was a huge success, and we removed it from our legislative agenda. The remaining items stayed, and so those were the priorities we focused on for the 2026 session. And the first item is the long-term. It's a long-term priority to preserve Shelton View Forest for recreational purposes. And although there is the legislative component to this priority, there was no specific ask for the legislative session. The city is still in the process of competing for a ranking in the Department of Natural Resources Trust Land Transfer process, which is a program that's specifically designed to protect DNR land from private development, but still meet the obligations of the trust that owns the property. The first district legislators, as well as other legislators, have said that it's really important that the city compete in this process first before coming to the legislature with any subsequent request. So that is what we are currently doing, and it's something that we will continue to work on over the interim months in preparation for the 2027 session. The next priority was a request for $20 million over the next three biennia to assist with the implementation of the city's bike plan. And this has been somewhat of a non-traditional request. Typically, we request funding specific to a project, and this was more programmatic funding. And I think at least the feedback we got is it's a concept legislators really like. They would have wanted to fund something in a more systemic way. There's just not the mechanism to do so within the state's transportation budget. Paired with the fact that the transportation budget is facing limited resources just to meet existing obligations. So the first district delegation asked us to prioritize one project out of the bike plan. And so we submitted a $400,000 request for the design phase of the 102nd Avenue Northeast Shared Use Path. That's the same request that we submitted last year. I mentioned earlier the vast majority of the supplemental transportation budget was dedicated towards maintenance and preservation, and for that reason, there was no new funding dedicated to projects, including Bothell's request. The city requested that the legislature take bold action to eliminate barriers to housing, particularly with an emphasis on housing units that are needed for those with 80% of the area median income or lower. One of the most notable outcomes in this topic from the session was the capital budget's investment of $123 million for the Housing Trust Fund. That's in addition to the over $600 million that was invested in the Housing Trust Fund in the capital budget last year. It's a historic level of funding in the state's affordable housing program. And with that, it's widely understood that no amount of money into the Housing Trust Fund is going to be able to solve our state's housing problem. And so there's also a look at what policies can reduce the cost of housing. There were several bills introduced that would achieve this goal. I'm just going to mention two this evening. The first is Senate Bill 6015, which was sponsored by Senator Jessica Bateman. It will direct the Department of Labor and Industries to publish factory housing plans and to develop a model ordinance for local governments to adopt with the intent of expediting getting housing units online. The bill didn't pass this year, but I'm bringing it up because it's something that Senator Bateman was intentionally introduced as a conversation starter. We flagged it as something that would be helpful and indicated wanting to work with her over the interim and bringing forward something that would be implementable from a city perspective. The second is House Bill 2304, and this further refines the law as it relates to condo liability. In the 2025 session, the legislature passed a bill that simplified condominium construction and the warranty requirements for those units. The bill this year expanded that policy and now applies to buildings with up to 12 units and 4 stories. Previously, it was only 3 stories. So I like to call that, or the legislature calls that, a trailer bill. It just expands the policy, refines it. The last item on the city's legislative agenda was originally included to be more of an educational item for the long-term needs of the project. But last December, when the governor released his proposed transportation budget, $5 million that was previously allocated to Bothell Way Multimodal Project was eliminated from the state's budget. We found out that it was actually an error. It was not intentional, which is excellent. But despite that error, the governor's budget is the foundation that the legislature uses to develop their budget. So it was really critical that we informed legislators of the mistake to make sure it wasn't carried forward in development of the actual supplemental budget. So we did that. It also gave us the opportunity to keep this project top of mind for budget writers. So in some ways it was of benefit to us, because in the end, the supplemental budget does restore the $5 million that was allocated to this project. So in addition to the city's top priorities, there are always other topics that come up throughout session, and this is why the city's policy manual is a really helpful document for us to have, because it directs our engagement on issues that we don't always know may arise. One of the key pieces of legislation that the city engaged on this year was Senate Bill 6026, which authorizes residential development in commercial zones and limits the use of ground floor retail requirements. This was a high priority piece of legislation for the governor and the lieutenant governor. And the premise of this bill is actually, at least from my opinion, similar to the parking bill from last session. Both parking and ground floor retail increase costs of constructing housing. So limiting when local jurisdictions can require those will reduce the cost of housing and theoretically result in more housing. While that may be a logical argument, it kind of misses the key point that commercial zones are necessary for jobs, and that at the direction of the legislature, cities have put together really intentional plans to accommodate both job growth and housing targets. And the proposed bill undermined that work. So Mayor Thompson, Councilmember Dodd, and Councilmember Curd, all at various points in the process, were signed up to testify to share the city's perspective on this. And I do think it's worth noting that Bothell's reputation for being pro-housing, I think, and then bringing forward valid concerns about this bill, improved the policy for everyone. After many rounds of negotiations, and poor city staff had to review dozens of versions of bills and amendments, we did reach a final agreement that still limits local authority, but retains some ability for cities to still use first floor retail requirements. And I can definitively say that this policy, this compromise, would not have been achieved without the engagement of Representative Davina Dewar. And she did that not necessarily on behalf of the city of Bothell, but definitely represented the city well. She is the chair of the House Local Government Committee where the bill went through, and so she had immense responsibility to influence the bill's outcome. And because of her leadership, there is a provision in the bill that protects the jobs that are planned for the Canyon Park sub-area. On the topic of public safety, one of the most significant bills from this session is Senate Bill 6002, and this establishes the allowable uses of automated license plate reader cameras. The bill allows ALPR cameras to be used to investigate both felonies and gross misdemeanors. and sets retention limits at 21 days, except for in specific situations. The bill is already law since it took effect when the governor signed it. There were several issues that came up this year on the topic of city finances, and I'm going to cover just the two big ones. Arguably the most significant piece of legislation this year was the passage of Senate Bill 6346, and that establishes a tax on incomes over $1 million and eliminates sales tax on select products. So this monumental tax policy change does have the effect of reducing local sales tax revenue. The bill acknowledged this in the intent section, and the legislature in the 4-year budget outlook included $200 million for the local government fiscal health account. And that's essentially to acknowledge that yes, there is impact to local governments because of this change, and it's an intent to help offset that. It's in the 4-year outlook because the millionaire's tax won't go into effect until 2028, assuming it is upheld with the assumption that it is going to be challenged in the courts as well as a court of public opinion, assuming there is an initiative to the people. The next is the funding for public defense. And this is, I think, one of the most unresolved and challenging pressures on local governments. In the initial version of the millionaire's tax, there was some funding included for public defense, but it was removed in the final version. And there were several bills introduced during the session, but all but one received a public hearing, and there's no additional funding in the operating budget. So essentially no change to the fact that the state continues to put this obligation on local governments to fund public defense. There is an ongoing lawsuit filed by the Association of Counties, and it's still working its way through the system, and I don't anticipate it being resolved in the near term. Then the final topic I want to touch on this evening is on transportation, specifically some bills that were requested by Sound Transit in the effort to reduce costs for constructing a regional transit system. One of the bills was Senate Bill 6309, and it ultimately passed the legislature, and the goal was to streamline the permitting process for Sound Transit projects. The mechanism to do that was to allow Sound Transit to apply for permits prior to having control or ownership of the property where the projects would occur. That was concerning, and so Councilmember Dodd testified at the public hearing to share those concerns on behalf of the city, and as a result, we were able to work with Sound Transit and, again, Representative Dewar to amend the bill to address that concern, and we're able to reach a compromise. So now that session is over, we think, what comes next? We're all done, right? The first thing that I like to encourage the cities to do is to express gratitude to your delegation. Even in this short session where, arguably there was no specific dollar brought back to Bothell like there was in the first half of the biennium when we got the money for Woodcrest. The delegation still did a lot for the city. And so I think it's really hard to describe the immense pressure and just workload that legislators carry. And yes, they sign up for it. They actually compete to do this work, which is crazy to me. But you all know in public service, it can be a thankless job. So I always encourage cities to go out of their way to thank their legislators for serving the city, serving the district, and ultimately serving the state. The next step is to implement both the policies that the legislature passed this year, which is, of course, falls heavily on the shoulders of city staff, but also implement the projects. I can't emphasize enough how critical it is to deliver the projects in a timely manner for those projects that the legislature has granted funding for. That helps establish a good reputation that the city is a worthy recipient of state dollars and should be invested in again. And Bothell has a great reputation for this. And then during the interim is also when we plan. We plan for what comes next. And as the city is working through your plans, I'll begin to work with you all in identifying what the priorities should be for the upcoming biennium. And then we will want to educate legislators on what those priorities are, what some of the biggest challenges are that the city is facing. And then in November, there will be elections. The entire House and half the Senate is up for election. And before we know it, session will be here, January 11th of 2027. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Curd.
Thank you, Mayor. And thanks, Shelley, for the presentation and for all of your work throughout the process this session. I know that it was short, which made it even harder because those timelines are incredibly difficult. I just wanted to share a couple of reflections. One, thank you for the opportunity to jump in and provide testimony. I know the time that I did, so there was a technical difficulty or whatever, but I still appreciate you looking out for opportunities where our priorities intersect with relevant bills that we can affect the policy, because we are seeing that we do have an effect. So that's great. One of the things I kind of was thinking about after the session was over was the cutout for the millionaire's tax for health products. I personally think, I speak for myself, that it's unconscionable that we tax those with sales tax anyway. And so I was kind of like, okay with it. And so I'm trying to understand what in our policy manual really forced us to take a really hard look at that. Was it just sort of preemption of our sales tax revenue, or was it just more of it wasn't so much the policy as it was the mechanism, and how do we refine, or how can we provide better information as a council so that we can have more nuanced take on those types of sticky issues?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're correct that our engagement was not on the policy. I think there was actually from my perspective, clear direction from the council when I came and spoke to you all at one of the meetings during session, that there was in fact support for the policy of eliminating sales tax on certain products. But it was for the financial impact on the city. And I think there is a statement in the policy manual that talks about that the city is going to watch for decisions that financially impact city revenues. And the way that message, I think, was delivered to legislators could have been improved on. I think in the fast timeline and in the heat of the moment, I think that communication was not as good as it could have been to emphasize that the city is supportive of this policy. We're not wanting to, be sticks in the mud, but we need to find a solution to make sure that city's finances are maybe not even made whole, because in the end it wasn't made whole, but are recognized that the cities are losing revenue for this, and the state is. The fiscal note that we knew at the time was $4 billion. So the state is gaining money and the cities were losing. So I think that was the message that we were trying to deliver, and probably didn't do as well as we could have.
That's okay. I appreciate the reflection and commitment to refining the approach in the future. I'm just astounded at how supportive our legislative delegation is, especially Representative Dewar. Seems like it was a theme in your conversation today about how we specifically got carve-outs basically for Canyon Park, for, with Sound Transit, and also with these financial considerations as well. So I'm really appreciative of your work and also our legislators. So thank you.
Councilmember Dodd.
Thank you. Thanks, Shelley, for being here and all your work during session. I find myself very appreciative of the work of you and our staff and our council, current and past, in trying to do good, responsible things so that when we raise an alarm, people listen to us and it's not like the sky is falling. I sort of same question as Councilmember Curd, but and again, speaking for myself, I strongly think it's not very progressive to take away revenue and not replace it. And I've been talking with like other local electeds, and we're all kind of really hungry for city progressive revenue options. And I'm hoping that we were able to start conversations about, I mean, there was the last session to remove the 1% cap. That went nowhere. Do you think that there's a legislator that is going to work on that next session in the longer session? And can we be very supportive of their work? Like, what does that look like to you?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. Part of the $200 million that's set aside for local government fiscal health, it's dedicated to cities, counties, and transit agencies, but there's no distinction over how that money gets distributed. We do have some time to figure that out. Again, the tax doesn't go into effect until 2028, and the $200 million is set aside in 4 years. So I say all that as context because several of what we call local government champions, members of the local government committee, particularly in the House, are committed to both working out how that $200 million gets distributed, and if the state is moving their tax code to be more progressive, how do we ensure that locals are also getting access to those, either that progressive revenue or progressive tools as well? And so I do think that that is something that's going to be worked on over the interim. I know Representative Zach Hall from Issaquah, that's something that he's interested in working on, as well as Representative Janice Zahn from Bellevue. And Representative Dewar, as the chair of the House Local Government Committee, she can only do so much. So I know she will, be engaged as much as possible, but I think those other two are likely the ones that are going to take that task on for this interim.
I would think that we are all interested in ways that we can work with people and perhaps not overburden Representative Dewar, who we are very familiar with. So yeah. I appreciate that.
Councilmember Anguilleri.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Thank you, Shirley. Great presentation and mentioning about our Bothell priorities and the update. Regarding the millionaire tax, it only applies to individuals, not the corporations, is what I understand. And the individuals who makes more than $1 million, let's say if somebody makes 1.1 million, only the $100,000, which is more than $1 million, is taxed for 10%. So I know there are arguments. So from your session, what are the major arguments? Like, does it impact our Washington economy? What have you heard from the other aisle? So most of the people support the bill and it's passed, but what are the major arguments that might impact our Washington economy?
Yeah, I think there's two main arguments in opposition to the bill. The first is that people who this tax would be subject to this tax have the resources to be able to either move their finances or move themselves to a different state. And so that a state that doesn't have an income tax. And so that you're just moving the resources out of Washington. I think that's one argument. The other argument is that it sets a precedent to have an income tax. And that is why there are already court challenges against the bill, because Washington has not historically had an income tax. There's a court case from several years ago that ruled that income is property, and taxation on property, according to Washington's Constitution, must be uniform. So if there is an income tax in Washington, it has to be uniform across all levels. So because this is a tax on income, we will see what the courts rule as to whether it will be upheld. But the fear is that eventually the threshold for what amount you may earn in order to be subject to the tax will get lower and lower. And you'll see people earning $300,000, $400,000 then being subject to an income tax because the precedent has been set.
Regarding the individuals moving the resources, they are individuals working at corporates, for example. Can I have more details when you say resources? Somebody cannot sell all their properties or businesses right away. It doesn't impact the businesses. Anything else, like when you say resources, anything else you heard that what can be moved, other state?
I'm unfortunately not enough of a financial
fine.
expert to know how
fine.
mobile assets are. Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. No, thank you. But it is only impacts in individuals, not the corporates. Is that right?
It's intended to be an individual income tax.
Only. Okay. Not the corporates, basically.
Correct.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. It's nice to see you in person, and congratulations, the session is over and you don't have to be in the middle of that anymore.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
But we, say what?
I was going to say for the next week. You don't have to be in the middle of it for the next week.
Yeah.
The work doesn't end.
But we appreciate the work that you do for us, and it's always lovely to see you. So thank you for coming up here tonight.
Thanks.
All right, our second update, and thank you, Shelley. Our second update is we're coming to council with an update for the community as well about the Safe and Secure Levy bond update. And I'm going to turn things over to Quan Wong, our finance director, and then he's also joined by our police chief, Ken Suberlick. We'll get the PowerPoint up here, and Quan will kick it off here in a moment.
Thank you, City Manager, and good evening, Mayor, City Council member. For tonight, I'm here to give you an update on the Safe and Secure Levy and bonds. The police chief and I are going to be answering your questions after a brief presentation. And that's what we're going to do. So back in November 2018, the voters approved two measures, a 12-year levy to fund additional staff in police, fire, municipal court, and IT facility support services. The second measure that they approved was a 20-year, $35.5 million capital bond to rebuild two aging fire stations. And they were the Fire Station 42 and Fire Station 45. The impact on the property owners, and I want to emphasize that it is both residential property owners and commercial property owners. So for a property of $1 million, they pay about $616 a year on the levy, and about $111 per year on the bond. The last point that I want to make is the levy will expire in 2030, and the fire stations bond in 2040. 2030 seems like a long time away, but actually it is only 4 years away. And if the council wants to do anything about it, we should start the conversation. And that is exactly why we want to report to the city council and the community. And we are doing great things, and later on, the police chief will be able to tell you in real time what the levy is paying. So the levy dollars at work. First of all, enhanced police staffing and services. We added 13 police officers and a community engagement coordinator to address crime, traffic issues, and as well as neighborhood nuisances. So let me pause here and let the chief to give you some real-life stories.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to take a moment to just thank the community for supporting this levy to begin with. It was no small endeavor, and we couldn't do this without their support and the support of council. I'd like to talk a little bit, kind of drill down into the staffing. Back in the day, when I was a member of the union, we actually went door to door and we handed these things out to community members to tell them exactly where their levy dollars will be going. So I just kind of want to do a quick refresh on that. Initially, it was for 6 firefighters and an aid car. I think we modified that a little bit by adding some additional. We also had a community crime reduction team, which I call CCRT for short. It's a PROACT team, they kind of fix problems in the community, not just like drug houses, but like if we have a parking issue or just a nuisance. We go in there and we try to figure out ways to solve that and make it better for the people who live, work, and play here in Bothell. Additional staffing, 6 additional officers to increase just general staffing in patrol. We had a property coordinator that's in charge of all of our evidence that we take in. Additional detective, a probation lead, police support officer who does our transports to and from jail. Navigators. I think it's kind of crazy to me how far we've come with that. It used to be the radar program, now it's RACER, and truly a model program in the region. I'm super proud of that. We have the school outreach and safety officer, which will probably become more of a community outreach officer once we actually get that filled. You would think it'd be filled by now, but I'll get into staffing here in a minute. Community engagement coordinator, which has been super helpful. We're currently trying to fill that position right now. Cam, who was with us for years, has retired. So we have an opportunity to bring somebody new on board. An application analyst, a traffic officer, and building maintenance specialist. So it's more than just PD. It covers a broad spectrum, but it makes the machine work. Today was a great example of this. A busy day for us is if we have a search warrant on top of just normal duties. Today we did 5 search warrants and involving criminal activity in town. Without going into the great detail on it, it was a heavy lift, and it took a couple years to come to fruition. And a key component to that was our investigations unit, but also our community crime reduction team, who spent countless hours really working this problem to help make Bothell safer. And we couldn't have done that without those additional bodies, those well-trained officers that are out there doing the police work necessary to keep this community safe. And it's just by chance it all fell together today. But I thought that was a very important story to kind of share on how these things impact how we serve our community. And what it also allows us to do is to maintain minimum staffing. Our staffing on any given shift is a sergeant and 4 officers for the whole of the city. And if we wouldn't have those additional 13 commissioned bodies, that staffing would not be 4 and 1. It would be less. So I just want to say thank you to the community for supporting this levy. It makes a big difference. We take a lot of pride in the service we provide and keeping this community safe and frankly special. So with that.
Thank you, Chief. So the next area of investment is in the mental health and crisis response. So we joined a regional crisis response program and sharing our resources in the tune of about $500,000 a year. So the program is handling behavioral and health crisis and treatments. So we're able to work with the first responders to help folks who are in mental crisis or some other life experiences. So that's another great experience that we're able to be part of in solving issues we are seeing in the community. The next area is enhanced fire and emergency medical services. We added firefighters, and now it's up to 10 FTEs, and a new 8-car medic car to respond to growing calls for services. So that is a great investment in the tune about $1.9 million a year. Of course, the next big thing is 2 new fire stations. We replaced Fire Station 42 and 45 by modern and state-of-the-art fire stations. And we even operate the emergency operating center in Station 42. And I also had the privilege in my first year as your staff to visit the open house. So that was really a great experience. So the next area is with the municipal court. We added probation officers there and really doing alternative to the traditional criminal system by promoting accountability, addressing underlying behaviors and connecting participants to services. So some of the great examples are community court, day reporting, and work crew. So thank you to the voters. So we are continuing those services at the community court. The next area is information technology. We added 1 FTE to improve technology related to digital evidence, incident reporting, and law enforcement databases. So, and the last area, and not to say the least, once we build those fire stations, somebody has to maintain them. So we not just building new facilities, but we also maintain them. So we have 1 FTE to ensure that those buildings are safe, well-maintained, and again, those included the fire stations and the police headquarters. So for today, we're just giving you the update and the community aid report. Again, thank you for their investment. We are putting their levy dollars at work. And for additional information, we have the website on the screen, but just visit bothell.gov/SafeSecure. And let me answer your questions, if any.
Councilman Rockabra.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Kwan and Chief Subelek for this. We see the value in levy, in the money that's required, especially I personally have the privilege of sitting over here that I hear some things, you know, and police doing really good work for our community. I think whether we should talk about it or not, the actual things that you guys respond to, I think it's extremely valuable that we have a solid PD that actually looks after the community. So I thank you.
Thank you on behalf of the men and women who serve.
Councilman Curd.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. It's always good to hear an update about this levy and bond. I have a question about the enabling conditions for the levy. In the packet, you mentioned that there was a police safety study in 2016 that led to the 2018 ballot measure. And were there any sort of things that we could kind of go back to that study and evaluate to see if we're hitting the marks there, or is that study still relevant to us today as we look to maybe a replacement measure in the future if needed?
I can try. So back in 2016, we worked with a company called Edico, who has done a number of studies for a number of municipalities. I think there are other ways that we can look at staffing models to better determine what the community needs. It's an idea. I don't know if it's the best idea. I know there's different groups out there that compare, you know, like how many officers we have per 1,000 versus Baltimore. Well, we're not Baltimore. There's a big difference between East Coast and West Coast law enforcement. But there is a challenge, honestly, with just getting staffing and getting them on board. So yes, I'm 100% sure we'll come up with a plan. But a lot of it's going to come down to, you know, what's our calls for service look like? How much undirected patrol time do our officers have? Because that's honestly where the things happen. You want to have a portion of your day set aside so the officers are out there looking for the problems versus just responding to them after the fact and it's that visible patrol. So whatever we go with, that's kind of what I'm going to be looking at is available patrol time, ways that we can better utilize our resources, be more efficient, because I could sit there and say, we'll never have enough officers, right? I mean, that's that government thing. It grows. So we have to be smart about it and look how we can use technology to help balance those gaps.
Thank you. Yeah, whether or not I'm still on council by the time it's time to think about a replacement, I recognize my bias towards quantitative data and looking to make sure that we're following, what the community needs. But I also recognize that qualitative data is part of the picture of whether these services have been useful, and it sounds like they are. So thank you.
Councilmember Dodd.
Thank you. Thank you both for the update. I just wanted to thank you, especially, Chief, I know you were in the department when this went out, so you're just going to get the thanks, even if you weren't chief. But what the levy funded is a lot more comprehensive than officer positions or things where we're just seeking prison time for people. The support through RACER and RADAR, the probation officer, the restorative justice programs, and kudos on getting the fire truck to go by when you were talking. That was very effective. It is really important for a healthy community to have more than just officers and for everyone to work together. So I just want to call that out because I think people think we're funding this or that, and the totality of the levy is really important and really remarkable to me. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember Alcalde.
Thank you, Mayor. And of course, we acknowledge the police department, but there's also the fire department, and with the growing city comes growing calls, and we've seen over the past few years how important it is to actually have solid response times, hence adding an 8-car, and even though that was foreseen back then, but as we grow as a city, so also kudos to our fire department, who is not here, for them to actually also keep our city safe. That reminds me, when I saw the fire truck, I think, when Council Member Dodd mentioned the fire truck, I was like, oh, yes. So thanks to those in the sky. So.
I don't have any questions either, but thank you guys very much. Really appreciate the update and just really appreciate the work that you do for the city. Thank you.
All right, we're still going. So our third presentation tonight is an update for council around our zoning map and some suggested refinements. Again, many on the council will recall back in 2024 where we had a long comprehensive plan process talking about zoning. Tonight is to provide some brief updates about some proposed changes to consider, and we would come back for action later. There's no action being sought tonight. With that, I'm going to turn things over to our planner from Community Development, Eric Jazuski, who will lead off the presentation as soon as the slides cooperate. Thanks, Eric.
Okay, thank you, Mr. City Manager and Mr. Mayor. Hello, council members. My name is Eric Jazuski, Long Range Planner with the Community Development Department. And joining me is?
Christian Getz. Glad to be back.
Good to see you today. So I'm presenting on zoning map refinements. I know you're on the edge of your seat on this one, so brace yourself. There's no action required today. But I will be presenting on staff recommendations for changes to the city's zoning map. A little bit, maybe some background. The zoning map is a regulatory tool that the city uses to determine what may or may not occur on property across the city. This is an implementation device from Bothell's comprehensive plan, which was recently updated in 2024. A major part of that plan update involved future land use mapping and regulatory changes to the zoning map. It applied new mixed-use zones across the city, increased residential allowances, and among many other things. To do that, there were extensive multi-year public engagement opportunities to see how the community wanted its future to look over the next 20 years. However, in making these broad changes across the city, some minor areas were missed and overlooked, resulting in minor inconsistencies that were discovered since the last update, December 2024. The proposal here will help give property owners more certainty with respect to existing and future land uses allowed on their property. Staff recommendations to refine the zoning map are 7 areas, or comprise 7 areas across Bothell, listed here, and there's more detail in your packet. Generally, these areas fall under the following 4 categories. Areas 1, 2, 4, and 5 are locations where there were new zones applied allowing mixed uses, new mixed-use overlay zones, but new zones were not added to implement those overlay zones. Another category of changes is in Area 3, where original zones pre-2024 were not carried forward in the update. Area 6 has a lack of mixed-use overlay zones where the city applied them elsewhere. And finally, Area 7 has old zones that were not updated in the 2024 update. And these recommendations in your packet result from a comprehensive review of the city's current zoning maps for such inconsistencies and omissions. The next steps for this proposal are for staff to return with proposed detailed code amendments for final consideration by the Planning Commission and City Council. That will include public hearings and a final ordinance. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Councilmember Curd.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. You joke, but I love the zoning map. so I was on the edge of my seat. So Area 5 in the packet, it's the one on the top of Nike Hill on Meridian Strip. Your proposal was for addition of RM1 into the sort of north side of 228th, where the surrounding zone is RM2 or RM3 there. So I'm wondering why that's, I don't have the old zoning map loaded up in my brain, but I'm wondering why that's perceivably a down zone there, whereas the RM1 on the lower side of that strip that's adjacent similarity zones. That might be a detailed question. Maybe you have to go take a look at it.
Detailed question, and we'll be diving into the details with Planning Commission, and we'll be sure to, when we do come back, we'll have that clarification for you. We did unearth the prior zoning map.
Good.
And I believe, if I can recall, it did make sense to assign it that residential density as a mixed use, a neighborhood business overlay. But we can follow up when we come back.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks.
I think we're good. Thank you very much for the presentation and the recommendations.
All right, and the last item, and we're ending with a bit of a disappointment because in your packet tonight was we intended to have a conversation about 2 proposed dates from the Northshore School District for a joint meeting. Subsequent to publishing of the packet, our city clerk, Laura Hathaway, was contacted by the Northshore School District suggesting that the 2 dates that they had offered no longer work for them and proposing dates later in the fall, in October and November. So we can have a conversation tonight about a joint meeting with the Northshore School District, but before we start asking you to book dates for October and November, we can probably do that other ways of doing some schedule checks. So unless there's any questions or any for Laura or myself, we can probably move past this one.
I had a quick question.
Okay.
Why did they change?
I don't know exactly. I think that they proposed a couple of dates and then, the end of the school year is quite busy for them and they just came back yesterday or Monday. No, I guess yesterday was Monday. They came back yesterday and just said they think it'd be better in the fall.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Councilmember Dodd.
Thank you. One thing I noticed about those days is they're days we don't normally meet, but it's my understanding the school board does meet on Tuesdays, which is when we meet. And I can't speak for everyone else, but I do kind of rearrange my life around Tuesdays. So it would be great if they could find a Tuesday that would work if it's going to be so far out. And then I would love to also have a chance to help shape what we talk about so that we can have some good discussions too.
That's great. Their proposed coordination on that is to have the mayor meet with the council president, and then I would most likely tag along as with the school superintendent. So that's the intended planning path, but that also means that, especially with more time on the horizon, that the mayor could always use some feedback from council in a future meeting about the types of things we'd want to talk about.
I could probably give the mayor feedback, so that makes sense. Thank you.
Can confirm. Councilmember Anguilari.
Thank you, Mayor. Did they cancel for other cities, or is it just Bothell they canceled it? Do we know?
We do not know.
Okay, good. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, we're one of the important city for NSD, I guess. So, okay, thank you.
Councilmember Miles.
Yes, I was just thinking maybe we could recommend October, November, since that would be kind of the best part of the fall for us all to meet.
Yeah, and that is the two dates that they talked about was Monday, October 19th, or Monday, November 2nd. But we can confirm that. Again, that's a Monday. We can ask them for a Tuesday night.
We shall see. We'll find some dates.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, I think we're good. Thank you. All right, next up is council committee reports, community reports, and conversations. Councilmember Dodd.
Thank you. So I bet everyone has been on the edge of their seat for the land use map, but also for this key that has been sitting on our dais. And you're like, what is that key, Amanda? And I would love to tell you. The city manager and Director Greenspan and I went to the Together Center in Redmond sometime in the last week, last Thursday, I think. And we attended the Arch Investment Celebration, and they gave us collectively this key, which I'm going to give back to Kyle because I don't want responsibility for it. It's some kind of metal, Councilmember Alcabra, and that is all I can tell you. You may investigate it. Now Councilmember Alcabra has the key. And we basically celebrated Arch's funding of the Bothell Urban Project. And I got a lot of great hugs and had a lot of good conversations about it. And so I just wanted to share that recognition with everyone because that is work we have all done, even though I got the hugs. So there you go.
Councilmember Anguilari.
Thank you, Councilmember Dodd. That sounds amazing. Thank you for joining. I could not join. Thank you.
It's true. All right, next up is projected agenda discussion. Does anybody have an item they'd like to talk about? No. In that case, I would love to accept a motion to approve the consent agenda. Councilmember Dodd.
I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Dodd and a second from Councilmember Alcabra to approve the consent agenda. Would anybody like to speak to the motion? Seeing none, City Clerk.
Thank you. Please say yes or no when I call your name. Councilmember Anguilari.
Yes.
Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Councilmember Curd.
Yes.
Councilmember Miles.
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd.
Yes.
Councilmember Alcabra.
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you. All right. Next up, let's see. It is 7:13, and council is going to adjourn to executive session to discuss potential litigation pursuant to RCW 4230-110-1I, with action expected under agenda items 9A and 9B for 20 minutes. We'll go 21 minutes. We will reconvene at 7:35. All right. It is now
in progress.
It is now 7:35. And council will now adjourn to a second executive session to discuss potential litigation pursuant to RCW 4230-110-1I with potential action for 30 minutes. Council will adjourn from executive session at 8:05. All right, welcome back. Next up, we have Agenda Bill 26058, grant agreement with the Washington State Department of Transportation for the 102nd Avenue Northeast Shared Use Path Project. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, Council, we have 4 items that are coming up to you for approval tonight. The first 2 are grant agreements, and so we'll have the same team up here. We're joined by a contingent of staff from Public Works, including our Deputy Director, and then teams from our Engineering and Capital Projects Group. I'm going to turn things over to Yongking Zhu to present both items 9A and 9B and to answer any questions.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight, I'm presenting 2 transportation projects that support the city's moving and around Bothell priority, both focused on improving safety and connectivity in the community. First is the 240th Street Southeast and 35th Avenue Southeast intersection project. Tonight's council action would authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with WashDOT to move into the design phase using $1.07 million in surface transportation block grant funding, along with $287,000 local match that's already in the budget. This project will replace the existing all-way stop condition at the intersection with a roundabout. It serves at a key entry point into the Mount Villa Business Park. The improvements include sidewalks, bike and pedestrian facilities, lighting, landscaping, and stormwater enhancements. Overall, this will make the intersection safer, improve traffic flow, and create a more complete street for everyone traveling through the area. The second project is the 102nd Avenue Northeast Shared Use Path project. Similar to the first item, tonight's action would authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with WashDOT for the design phase using $1.6 million in congestion mitigation and air quality funding with a $410 local match, a $410,000 local match also already budgeted. This project will build a 12-foot wide shared use path for pedestrians and bicyclists, along with lighting, planting strip, and other supporting improvements between East Riverside Drive and Main Street. Importantly, these improvements will connect the Sammamish River and the Burghuman trails to downtown Bothell, making it easier for people to safely travel on a relatively busy corridor using multimodal alternatives. Both projects received federal funding approval in December 2024, and we needed to obligate those funds by June 1st, 2026. Both projects meet procurement policy requirements for council approval due to the level of local matching funds and are fully consistent with the council's adopted transportation priorities. Staff recommends approval of both resolutions to allow these important projects to move forward into the design phase. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Curd.
Thanks. I don't have any questions, but I'm encouraged to see that these projects are moving forward and that we're leveraging our $1 goes 4 times as far when we partner. So thank you for the presentation. I'm looking forward to these projects and take the motion separately for conversation afterwards. But I move to adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the local agency agreement with WashDOT for the 102nd Avenue Northeast Shared Use Path Project, obligating a maximum of $1.6 million in grant funds and committing a maximum of $410,000 in local matching funds.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Curd and a second from Councilmember Dodd to move the recommended action. Would anybody like to speak to the motion? I just want to echo what Councilmember Curd said. I don't have any questions, but I'm really excited that these are projects that we're moving forward, and these are things that we found grants for, and I'm really looking forward to these things getting done one day.
Thank you.
City Clerk?
Thank you. Please say yes or no when I call your name. Councilmember Anguilari?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Curd?
Yes.
Councilmember Miles?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Connor?
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
All right, would anybody like to? Councilmember Curd.
I move to adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the local agency agreement with WashDOT for the 240th Street Southeast and 35th Avenue Southeast intersection project, obligating a maximum of $1.069750 in grant funds and committing a maximum of $287,000 in local matching funds.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Curd and a second from Councilmember Dodd to move the recommended action. Would anybody like to speak to the motion? Councilmember Dodd.
I thought I would just take a turn and say thank you. It is really great to see that the grants that your team continues to get to support good work. So thank you for all the effort that you put into this.
Thank you.
City Clerk?
Thank you. Please say yes or no when I call your name. Councilmember Anguilari?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Curd?
Yes.
Councilmember Miles?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember O'Connor?
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
Well done, team. We got that knocked out quickly. Next up is Agenda Bill 26060. It's amendment number 4 to the professional services agreement with Site Workshop Landscape Architecture for Park at Bothell Landing Design Services. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, Council, on this item, while we don't often have fourth amendments to contracts coming for presentation, tonight, due to the amount and significance of the project of the Park at Bothell Landing, we really wanted to give Council and the community a snapshot of where things are on with this project and answer any questions you might have. Our staff team from Parks are at the table, but I'm going to turn things over to our Planning and Development Program Manager, Aaron Milner, to present and entertain questions from the Council. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor, Council members. My name is Aaron Milner. I'm the Park Planning and Development Manager, alongside here with Director Nick Stroop and Kai Patnode, our Planning and Capital Projects Assistant. So tonight we're here to present a design services amendment for the Park at Bothell Landing Improvements Project and to request approval to proceed with construction documentation phase of design. So specifically, we're seeking your approval for a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement amendment with Site Workshop Landscape Architecture for the Park at Bothell Landing Improvement Project. This amendment would allow the project to move forward into construction documentation, which is the final phase of design needed to prepare the project for permitting and construction. To briefly walk you through tonight's presentation, we'll start with the project background, followed by the community vision that has shaped the current design. We'll then highlight the progress made through the design process to date. And finally, we'll discuss the next steps of the project, which is to proceed with the construction documentation phase at this critical path forward toward the construction of the Park at Bothell Landing.
So the larger vision for the Park at Bothell Landing as the city's central community space has been in place for many years. The city's downtown revitalization plan, first adopted in 2009, was the first key step in the vision of expanding the Park at Bothell Landing along with the rest of downtown Bothell. The plan emphasizes the park as the city's focal gathering space, particularly following the State Route 522 alignment with the expansion of the park footprint. In 2010, a master plan for the park was developed, but it was never fully implemented. Building on that earlier vision, the city entered into an agreement with Site Workshop Landscape Architecture in 2023 to update the 2010 master plan and develop a new conceptual design. This effort directly supports the City Council's 2040 vision, which identifies initiating construction of the park at Bothell Landing as a priority within the joyful and healthy way of life focus area. The conceptual design phase, beginning in 2023, included extensive community engagement with 4 public open houses, 3 pop-up events, two online surveys, and multiple stakeholder interviews. From this process, a conceptual design that reflects strong community priorities was developed, and it features accessible pathways and nature trails, a central gathering space with an interactive fountain, an inclusive playground, improved water access with a kayak rental facility and boat launch, new restrooms, a skate park and pump track, public art and lighting, and a new parking area. In April of 2025, Council approved Resolution Number 1598, authorizing an amended agreement with Site Workshop Landscape Architecture to proceed with the schematic design and design development phases. These phases refined and advanced key project components identified in the conceptual design phase. Schematic design was completed in August of 2025, followed by design development in March of 2026, bringing this project to its current level of design. This reflects about 60% of the design process.
So with design development complete, the project is ready to move into the construction documentation phase. This phase will produce the full technical design, specifications, and permitting coordination required to initiate construction at the park at Bothell Landing. It represents the final step in design and a critical milestone towards delivering the park at Bothell Landing improvements as envisioned in the city's 2040 vision and long-standing planning efforts. With that, staff is requesting council authorization to amend the agreement with Site Workshop Landscape Architecture to complete this final phase of design. The recommended action is to approve the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement amendment for construction documentation services for the park at Bothell Landing improvement project. We're here to answer any questions you may have.
Councilmember Curd.
I'll break the ice as my fellow council members are thinking. I thank you for the presentation. I am not familiar with permitting a new park. What sort of permits are going to be included in this next phase? What are you anticipating is going to be easy? What's going to take a little bit longer? Are the designs going to change substantially during the permitting phase? What can we expect?
So throughout this entire process, first off, we're working within the shorelines area. So there's a lot of considerations we have to take into account. We've been working very closely with our community development department throughout the entire process. We have an excellent consultant on board, Shannon Wilson. Amy Sumi, who actually helped draft our shorelines code, is our sub-consultant on the project. So we feel very confident moving into the permitting phase that we have all our permits in order. In fact, next month we have a pre-application meeting with our community development just to verify all that we've learned so far.
Are there other types of permitting that might be needed for the park? I'm thinking specifically, it's really close to the river. Are there any sort of Army Corps things? Are there things that we need to budget a lot of time for?
There's Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, because we are touching the river with the boat launch. In fact, in the plans, you do see that we are looking at some improvements to the amphitheater area, which is within our ordinary high water mark, which in this phase, actually, we're deciding to not move forward with those improvements of a permanent stage and a permanent roof structure, just because of the significance of the river and how much we value it, and also some of the permitting requirements that would be required of that. But we have engaged with Fish and Wildlife already and had them out on site, and discuss any implications with permitting of the boat launch area.
Great. I was rewatching our last study session from January of last year, and I recall asking a question about tribal engagement. Since January of last year, what sorts of tribal engagement have we completed?
We've done a regulatory portion of it as far as cultural resources go. It's not something at this point that's required of us for any, there's no requirement for us to do that. We have reached out specifically to all the impacted tribes or affected tribes in the area, and we have not received a response.
Okay. Thanks. I will defer to other council members before asking more questions.
Nobody else has any questions? Okay, I will go. The last time we say what? Oh, Prasad? Councilman Anguilari? Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a great presentation and looking forward to it. I was at the community outreach that was done, I think a month back. There was a lot of excitement from the community. I'm hoping to see this taking shape next few years whenever that happens. But I have a question, maybe it's an interesting question. The skate ball, I heard from Rosemary McAuliffe they committed $1 million and then the King County is matching $1 million. At what point of time that materializes? Is that like a finally confirmed? Just a curiosity question. I'm talking about Rosemary McAuliffe. So she committed $1 million and I heard that she means that their family and King County is matching $1 million is what I heard. So I just want to know at what point of time that materializes.
Yeah, so we've been working with Rosemary McAuliffe as well as a community group of skateboarding enthusiasts. They have raised $1 million, and then also in the recently passed King County levy, there was $1 million that was set aside specifically for that amenity. So it is there. Because we have that money and we've secured, that with likely if we got into a phasing situation, say we didn't have all the funding to build every element of the park, that would be in the first phase because there's money that is there.
That's great. So it's basically we kind of secured 2 million total.
We've secured 1 million for sure. It's in the King County levy. So they're still holding the $1 million, Rosemary, and I think she's using the Northshore Rotary to back that. The thing with the King County levy is, though, that it is a levy, so it's a 6-year levy, meaning that not all of that money is available today. It's over the course of that 6 years. And that would be a reimbursement. So we would pay for it up front, and then they would reimburse us.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dodd?
This is maybe too deep of a question, but with a 6-year levy, how do they determine which projects get funds when? Does everybody get divided by 6 every year, or how does that work?
Well, for the city projects where they allocate money, so they collect money essentially every year for the levy. And so the way it works is like for those types of projects, it's the accumulation over the 6 years. We will get reimbursed for that. It's in there. So if we spend $1 million, we'll get reimbursed $1 million. It's there, but it may not be, say if we went and built the skate park 2 years from now, we may not get that full reimbursement. It will take that full 6 years to get that.
And do they reimburse in chunks or just once they have the full balance?
They'll reimburse in chunks.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I don't know. I was very curious. I feel like that hasn't come up recently. Do you have and it's okay if it's very rough or a range, but the skate features may cost X amount. If we optimistically say we have $2 million, what portion of the cost of the skate park is that?
We're very close.
Okay.
Very, very close. So I would say that we're pretty close and ready to go to construction with that kind of money. For the skate park, we've included the design work that we're doing right now in the current project. So that $1 million is really the construction. And then the additional $1 million would also go towards the construction.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah.
I had one question. The last time that we had this in front of us, I think the time before that, council had asked for kind of a world-class skate park and a world-class pump track, and what we got was a world-class skate park and a pump feature. And I noticed that the language in this is all around a pump track. Has there been any additional design work done on that since we saw it, or is it still kind of that pump feature?
So this is one element that's an ongoing conversation that we're having with our consultant team. What you do see is a world-class skate park, and then what's probably more appropriately labeled as like a progressive skate bike feature. It's a departure from your traditional ribbon pump track. We recognize that, and it's something that we're working through with our consultant team. We have a little bit of added scope within this next phase of development to continue those conversations. And in fact, we have a focus group meeting at the end of this month, engaging with the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance to kind of understand a little bit better what features are more appropriate or most appropriate for a mountain bike pump track course. So it's an ongoing conversation, and it's also something we're looking at system-wide to understand if this is maybe not the best opportunity, what other opportunities we have elsewhere in the city with the other projects we have going.
Awesome. Very cool. I'm looking forward to hearing the results of that. Councilmember Anguilari.
Thank you. I have one more question on the private partnerships. I heard that we now can, Bothell City accepts private partnerships. Do we have any positive feedback from any corporates, or how are we reaching to corporates? Or just want to know, I'm curious if anybody committed anything, or what are our future plans to get any money from corporates for any of these projects?
So yeah, you're absolutely right. We had a partnership program come before council, and we are in the process of developing that. I would say that there's nothing right now that's developed for the partnership that, could be like a corporate sponsorship, something like that. That does take time. It does take time to build those relationships, but we do have some framework in place so that we can pursue that. It is an opportunity. One of the things that we are looking at, like in our playgrounds, for example, is creating opportunities for corporations or local families to partner with us to buy certain amenities. So similar to what Rosemary's doing on a sort of larger scale with the skate park, think about it of like, hey, there's this really cool like swing set, and we'd like to sponsor that. We're open to those conversations, and certainly we'll be pursuing those in the future.
What are the high-level steps, from the city? What do we need to do? Do we need to pass some resolutions, or what are the high-level steps?
No, with any partnership agreement that we create, where we go through a process. So we would sit down, we would determine what, and certainly make sure that our goals aligned together, and to make sure that it was appropriate for us to move forward with that. Depending on the amount that we're talking about, that would depend on where it would go as far as like, would we bring it to council? Would it be an administrative decision? Things like that.
So you mean if somebody comes, I'm going to give, any corporation comes forward, we are going to give $500,000. So we are ready. We can take it. If anyone comes for anything.
We definitely are open and willing to have those conversations.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Councilmember Curd.
Thanks. I'll jump in with my last questions here, just to thank you for hearing us all and incorporating our feedback this whole process. One of my feedback has always been about water quality. Big surprise. And so I read through the document. It calls it as lawn area. Just to confirm, we're not planning on installing turf here. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great.
There will be synthetic turf in our accessible playground. Sure. That's more for accessibility.
Safety,
purposes.
yes. I totally understand that. But good to hear that some of the larger lawn areas will not be running off into the river. And then can you just refresh my memory on the community building? We had a lot of conversation about the Lytle House, consternation over it possibly being a 1980s historic building. I recognize that it's in its existing location, pretty close to the shoreline. There might need to be some creative, adaptive, maybe reuse of a wall or something to keep it. What are you thinking of for this community space and community building that would be the next iteration of the Lytle House?
So yes, we are proposing a replacement building for the Lytle House. And we went through a process with our Landmark Preservation Board. We had actually met with them on 3 separate occasions. One of them being a certificate of appropriateness waiver for the Lytle House to allow the demolition of it. Prior to that meeting, we had actually been to the Landmark Preservation Board, presented them 3 alternatives for retaining the Lytle House, which was our original approach. So looking into it further, I mean, the structure itself is not historically significant. It's Dr. Lytle, who is the second physician in Bothell. That is it's historical in his name specifically. So we made a decision to actually build a new building on the site, and we're constrained to the existing footprint more or less. And so what we're proposing is a new community room, first floor community room that also includes a reception area, lobby, and meeting room, and a kitchen for the public to use, not only for recreation programming, but also for rental facilities after hours. And then on the second floor, we're proposing to house administrative staff for Parks and Recreation on the second floor, so we can be more of a front-facing department within one of our most cherished parks in the system.
Thanks for the update.
I would just add too that we do have some, growing concerns about the space that we have. So as a city, we're looking at what our opportunities are as we grow, as the capacity, to house people. So for example, at the current Bothell Operations Center, we are at a point where there are days that there's no parking. So we're trying to figure out, where are those opportunities to create space, what makes sense. Being in the park that is probably our most popular park in the entire system makes a ton of sense, I think. But it also gives us that opportunity to help program that community space. So one of the things that we'll be back to you next week with is our pros plan. And one of the big, asks of the community has been, we'd love to have more community space. We'd love to see recreation programming come back. And that gives us an opportunity to be on site and actually do that work.
Yeah, that's great. I think from my perspective, the return to office mandates hit everybody differently, but there is something special about if you're serving a community, working in that space and being really intentional about interacting with people. And I feel like the Parks Department in a park makes a lot of sense, but that's me personally. Thank you.
I'll jump in on that topic too. I don't think any of us want to have less of a presence in the city for parks than we do right now. I know that there's a ton of desire to bring back recreation programming, and if you hire new people to do new work, they're going to need space. So I think that's a really compelling ask to the community as well. And maybe we could name it the Lytle Building or something, and still give a nod, or not. That wasn't well thought through. So cool. I think that's it. Thank you. I think we need a motion. Councilmember Dodd?
I'd like to move the recommended action.
A second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Dodd to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a professional services agreement amendment number 4 for further design of the park at Bothell Landing with site workshop landscape architecture. Did I say the motion from Councilmember Dodd and the second from Councilmember Aguilera?
Now you have.
Now I have. Would anybody like to speak to the motion? Seeing none, City Clerk?
Thank you. Please say yes or no when I call your name. Councilmember Anguilari?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Kurd?
Yes.
Councilmember Miles?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember Oncom?
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you. And thank you guys. Oh, and Nick, I just wanted to say you picked a great shirt for tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matches the haircut well. All right, next up, we have Agenda Bill 26061, a resolution repealing and replacing the City Council Protocol Manual. City Manager.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the last item of the night, but we'll see how long we need to get through it. So you'll recall there was a recent, earlier this year, study session to discuss potential changes to the protocol manual. Our city clerk walked us through some of the different items that have come up since the last update. Many of those have been incorporated. There's a couple of questions that the clerk will call out. And so in your packet to help orient you, there's the resolution as well as a copy of the manual showing revisions and a clean copy that could be adopted. With that, I'm going to turn things over to our city clerk, Laura Hathaway, to guide you through the conversation. Laura.
Thank you. There it goes. Okay. Thank you very much, Mayor and council members. Yes, as Kyle said, we are going to walk through this a little bit. There's a couple areas in the protocol manual that still need, we need further discussion on. So I'm going to give a little bit of an overview here. The manual serves as a guide to document the accepted practices and expectations among council members. We regularly review the manual for potential updates every 2 years or so or as needed. And at the study session on February 17th, council discussed updates to chapters 2, 4, 5, 7, and 8, which have been incorporated or shown in red in attachment number 2. We did not reach any kind of consensus, and further discussion is needed on chapter 2.08D4, which is reports to council, and chapter 8.01, meeting schedule. Chapter 2 is general powers, advisory bodies, reports to council. Chapter 8 in city council meetings, meeting schedule. So I'm just going to lay out a little bit. I proposed some language after taking the feedback we got from the council at February 17th, and I got to move myself out of here. So the proposed language for Chapter 2 advisory bodies that I'd like to present, and we can make changes, council can give feedback on, is the city council values the advisory role of boards and commissions and encourages them to present updates and work plans at any regular city council meeting under boards and committee reports. Members will work with their staff liaison to schedule updates or questions to council as needed. And then Chapter 8, under City Council meeting schedule, the proposed additional language to that chapter is every effort will be made to conclude council meetings by 9 p.m. It shall be the preference of the council not to act on any item that is presented at the same evening unless it is one of routine nature, such as consent agenda items. Further, council meetings will be canceled on the first Tuesday in November, which is election day. Staff will monitor the Northshore School District calendar for council quorum and avoid scheduling items with high community interest or impact during school breaks. So those are the two that I'm seeking clarification on, and I'm happy to answer questions on any of the other changes in the document that we talked about on February 17th, or anything else you all would like to see.
Anything? Councilmember Dodd.
Anything. It's your manual.
Thanks for joining us from a different seat, Laura. I know it's your favorite one. I would really like to push the council on the very last bullet on the screen right now. We not only do we have parents on council in majority, we also have a lot of staff who are parents of kids in North Shore schools. We saw during spring break just recently that there were staff who were out, and to have a meeting with nothing of high impact seemed like I have to think we could just reschedule it. It's 2 Tuesdays a year to do midwinter break and spring break, and why do we need to meet those weeks? I have yet to hear a good case, and I'd really like us to just adopt the policy of not meeting then. Thank you.
I would just like to +1 that. It seems like those would be good opportunities to have a meeting on a 4th Tuesday. Councilmember Alcabra.
Thank you, Mayor. Seems reasonable to me. I don't think there's it's not an issue for me.
Councilmember Curd.
I have an item on the first bullet, which is leaving the discretion to the boards and committees to come at will. Seems like it's an opportunity for them to hesitate to come regularly. So I don't know if we could encourage the staff liaisons to nudge them every quarter to see, or I know some boards and commissions have a standing item in their agenda to bring something up with council, then they put it on that item. But I'm just cognizant of the somewhat reduced connection between council and its boards, our boards and committees. And if we aren't going to have like a formalized liaison role between a council member and a committee, like we had briefly discussed at the retreat, then at least making there be a stop in the process for those boards and committees to actually check in and see if it's actually a regular thing. So maybe putting quarterly in there, or putting every, because sometimes a committee might only meet quarterly, so that's not reasonable. But I see the tension in asking boards and committees to do it regularly when they each meet irregularly. So maybe every couple of meetings, or just leaving it to the staff liaison to regularly check in with them. I think.
I think that we could put quarterly in there, and then
a quarterly check.
Yeah, schedule that with the staff liaisons if that's amenable to the rest of the council. I think we could change that language, say check in quarterly.
Or like members.
We could stagger it a little bit.
Yeah. Members will work with their staff liaison quarterly to schedule updates or questions to council as needed. Still gives them an out if there's nothing to report on quarterly, but at least it will be, at minimum, there'll be a check quarterly to make sure that there's nothing. Because if we just say regularly, well, that could be once every 4 years. That's not helpful.
I like that wording change.
Yep, we could do that.
And I just wanted to take a check. We had 3 people support the no working during midwinter and spring break. And I just wanted to know if a lack of saying that is because we thought we had quorum or anything else. So I want to open it back up to this side of the room. Councilmember Miles?
Oh, I agree. Thank you.
Okay.
I agree too. I agree as well.
Awesome.
I will let the opinion rest. I still think that we need to mitigate it somehow. We have a certain number of meetings that we meet, and if we're shortening them to 9 o'clock now, we're going to have a crunch at the end of the year. So meeting on the 4th Tuesdays is maybe an alternative that I would be welcoming.
I would agree with all that. Councilmember Dodd.
Yeah, and I don't, 9 p.m. or not doesn't bother me personally, but I will go with however we want to mitigate that as a group. I wanted to speak to Councilmember Curd's proposal on the boards and commissions. I agree that we need just more frequent communication. It is in practice hard for, I will say each of us, but for me personally to go watch like every meeting to find out what happened. There isn't a good way to summarize that I have found either. I don't like to use AI for that. And so it's kind of just like some kind of, and I was speaking to the city manager about this, but I don't know if we can just get like minutes are very dry. They're not, it's just like action notes, not kind of what happened. So I'm really open to ideas there. I like a council liaison structure, but I don't think we've ever had 4 supports for that in discussion. But however, we can just get more regular updates, even if it's emails, routed through the executive office from the staff liaisons, just whatever is sustainable for the most people would be really appreciated. Because it's true that there may not be a need for every advisory body to come quarterly, so the flexibility in the language is great, but please invite everyone to think outside the box so we get a little more info too.
I actually really like that idea of like if we could get like a brief summary from the staff of like, here's what happened in the meeting, here's what was discussed, here was the general tone of the thing, like that. I would love to know a little bit more what our boards and commissions are discussing.
I'm gonna jump in and say too, like if however it works out, if the boards also get that information and then they want to add some color, like they read the summary, they're like, oh, but I thought this part was really important. That might spur discussion too.
That's probably not a.
Well, they couldn't reply
item.
all,
Yeah.
but if they got a copy of it, they might be able to reach back out to the staff person or to an individual council member and be like, hey, this was also happening. But I think sometimes you read a summary of something you're in and you're like, oh, that's interesting because this other part stood out to me.
I would just caution that it, potentially that creates an endless loop of then editing of people then not agreeing with their colleague and that sort of thing. But what we can do is work to come up with a method that is not simply just a staff email follow-up, but perhaps even a practice of doing a wrap-up at the end of what are the things we're going to capture. We'll come up with something, and I think for the protocol manual, we won't necessarily have to have the procedure in there, but what I'm hearing is wanting to capture what are the action items or items of significance being discussed by the board and commissions and ensuring that the participants have an opportunity to put their voice to it, if that works.
Yeah, and I'm spitballing more than trying to give a process because I think we have a creative staff that'll come up with something cool.
I think we hear you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Curd.
Yeah, it's just a conversation. I don't know. There's not a prohibition against council members attending board and commission meetings, but then I think it opens it up to those commissioners and board members using that council member as a liaison, like de facto liaisoning. And so I have shied away from that. But I do feel that the Imagine Bothell notice that goes out monthly provides a really concise summary of what the Planning Commission and Council do according to land use. I find those really helpful to just plan it out for the month and see which meetings I need to like sit in on that are interesting for the Planning Commission, at least on YouTube. And I feel like we've been lacking something like that for our other boards and commissions. And just even like a projected agendas could be helpful in having it in one spot rather than having to like open up every single PDF. I think even something as simple as just providing a forecast of what those boards are going to be talking about. So then, we can, if, we could talk with a amongst ourselves in council conversations about issues that are happening and whether we might want to invite a collaborative meeting, study session type thing. Or I think the first part for me is just knowing what's happening, like what to parse out my time to. So I think if nothing else, it would be really helpful not to do summaries on the end, but summarize the agendas before they happen, because I can manage my time and I can watch YouTube recordings at double speed or whatever. But just knowing when things are coming ahead of time is more helpful for me. So I'm trying to think of ways that this is less impactful on staff time, having to summarize things and having to sort of coordinate after the fact, but forecasting agendas is something that ideally should be pretty easy to do, and just summarizing them into imagine all of Bothell, not just land use, could be a helpful way to approach it. So that's an idea. And then another bullet that's not on here is we have discussed a little bit about practices that we have kind of fallen into for study sessions too. And I don't think it warrants a bullet, but it does warrant a conversation. And now is the opportune time to have it at 8:51. I think I recognize that as a council, we are, me in particular, very detail oriented, and we have a long list and litany of questions for staff at study sessions. And the goal of going down to the table is to have a conversation. So I can commit to asking and seeding questions to other council members in hopes that maybe that can spur on more discussion elements rather than just litany of questions and answers. And I hope that others will partner with me on that sort of culture change of study sessions being more collaborative and conversational. I think that we all bring special, unique perspectives, and I want to hear ideas and thoughts rather than just carefully crafted questions to staff. So I agree with some of the conversation that we've had at the retreat on study sessions, and I just have been thinking about ways that I can be a better partner to the rest of you, and maybe that's being more curious and asking more questions amongst the council members. So that's not a bullet point to change in the protocol manual, but it's a commitment that I'll take going forward.
Councilmember Miles.
I'd just like to say I would co-sign what you're saying in terms of how we architect our study sessions. It is something that I, as a newbie, have thought through a lot. It'd be great to have them to be more conversational. I think we will all get a lot more out of it. And as you said, carefully crafted questions to staff is great, but I think it's a time for all of us to actually converse with each other.
Councilmember Alcabra.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree. I think when we instituted the study sessions a few years ago, it was after the last retreat, I think it was.
We changed the structure after the 2023 retreat. We changed the structure after the 2023 retreat.
Okay, I don't remember that far back. Maybe we did have study sessions before then.
That's why I'm helping.
Thank you. But anyway, it was supposed to be conversational. It's supposed to be discussions. I think the fact that we get a presentation and then we react to it, it gets our mindset as if we're sitting here and staff is sitting there. I think even that structure can change, where distributing maybe papers instead of having an official presentation. We can talk about it at some point. Maybe it's not a bullet point for this, but yes, I agree. It'd be nice to have it more of a conversation, although with a caveat, it's recorded and videoed and everything, so it's not going to be as free-flowing as a more non-recorded conversation, but yes.
Yeah, I think it might be helpful, like, I don't usually come in with a lot of preconceived questions, and I've been treating them conversationally. So I think maybe this is a good opportunity for us to have open conversation. You know, we had talked about potentially follow up with more targeted retreat topics, but the broadness of this plan isn't hitting with me for some reason. So maybe it's just different people are looking at their own engagement, and I've looked at mine differently, but this is something I hope we can refine as we go forward, because they should be useful for everyone.
I appreciate Councilmember Kerr bringing this up, because it often feels to me like we all just have like this like litany of questions, and we like, I don't remember if it was you that said, you know, we sort of treat it like we're up here, but either way, that's not really a protocol manual conversation, so I can probably leave it at there. We're getting very study session-y right now, oddly. I had another question on the travel. There's travel funds sufficient to cover one national and one state conference per biennium per council member. And like, I don't think I've been to AWC more often than every other year in my term here at all. But like, I don't know, I kind of feel like if we want to go to the AWC conference every year, that would be okay. And I mean, that would be something that would fall into the second section at all, but I don't know how y'all feel about that. I guess it's just, we can inform the rest of the council of our travel plans under the council reports and conversations section of the agenda. Cool. I think I'm good. Sorry? Councilmember Dodd?
Oh, I don't like necessarily support restricting it to one of each kind every biennium. I think there's a case sometimes if there's good work to be done, or if someone has like a board position in one of these big conglomerates of cities. I think one of the concerns was around, we had some folks take trips to, I think, NLC, like the last month or two in office. And that was odd, and we never got to hear what utility that served the city. So I think the important part to me is more, what did you going to that thing do to help Bothell? Because that's the goal of city-funded travel. So I think we're in alignment. I don't know that the limitation there is needed.
Every year. So yeah, I missed the middle part in between the front and the back. I think I'm fine with this, the way that it's worded. Laura's like, let me go home.
So, if I may, if I will change if we have consensus from council on the Chapter 8 meeting schedule for the canceling the Northshore, canceling the meetings if they fall within the Northshore School District break section. And then on the proposed language for the Chapter 2 advisory bodies, I can change that to, we want to say they'll report quarterly and come to the meetings and provide written updates. Can I get a little more clarification?
Yeah, it's not, sorry, I'm just jumping in now. Sorry, it's 9 o'clock. It's not that they need to come to us quarterly. It's in your proposed language on this slide, it says, members will work with their staff liaison quarterly to schedule updates. Okay. So just to add that word quarterly after liaison and before too. Okay. And then the as needed there gives them an out. If they only meet quarterly, then they don't need to. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just have an interesting or maybe a little stupid thought. How can we not democratize where on any council meeting during that without a staff liaison, can they not just come in and talk to us any council meeting?
There is a section on the agenda that for board and commission reports. Mm-hmm. And yes, if we have one scheduled, then that's where it would go. So yes, any council meeting can have board and commission reports.
I mean, even without scheduling anything on any day, any council meeting, can they not just come in and just talk to us whenever they have a concern or a question or an update they wanted to talk to us? Can they not just come in and talk to us? Under that, we have that conversations and committee reports. Under that section.
Under like public comment or?
No, the committee reports. We have a section for committee reports, right?
Yeah, community reports, yes. So
That's
under the
for
report
us,
section,
not for our boards and commissions.
If I don't have one, I take it off the agenda. If we don't have a board and commission report, then we take it off the agenda. But there is a standing,
Okay.
a standing section for board and commission reports under the report section.
Okay.
So it's city manager report, board and commission reports, and then city council reports.
So they do know that they can come anytime?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dodd.
I was going to say, Councilmember Anguilari, we've had individual and groups of board members come before during public comment. So that is, they can come anytime and they can specify, I'm on this body, but I'm here as myself, or I'm here to represent. So we've seen it. It just, in practice, it's not happening very often.
And that would be the thing that I would just add is that much like the council needs to speak with one voice, our boards and commissions are asked to speak with one voice too. So if somebody's coming and speaking on behalf of a board and commission, that group should have commissioned them to go do that. So it's usually not a ad hoc, like something that comes up last minute. So that's where the clerk getting notification to add it onto the agenda is typically possible, but it is really more of a situation where it's not there. One of the things I wanted to just suggest though too, as you bring this to a close, is that because this is a voted item, what I might suggest for council to consider is, I think you have about 3 amendments that you want to make, but if somebody puts the main motion on the table to consider the resolution, and then there can be a motion to amend section by section, that way there'll be the most clarity, but our clerk's at the table, so she might need a hand, but we can.
Could we do one motion to pass the agenda item with the proposed amendments as discussed?
Nobody's made amendments.
If everybody on the council is comfortable that those changes are clear, you certainly may. So if you all feel like the things that you've discussed, it's sufficient clarity, what amendments you're discussing, and I think you have recapped them, but if you're comfortable with that, then we will. The good news too is it's the council protocol manual, so if something needs to change again, you're well within your rights to bring that up.
So what are the amendments? There's school breaks.
Council, or Mayor,
Yes.
Council, I would suggest, just for clarity of the record, maybe the way I would do it is section by section. So, right, we have one to section 2.08 D4, one to 8.01. That might be more helpful as we parse through, instead of saying something more vague like the quarterly report suggestion or something like that.
Councilmember Card.
I move to approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bothell repealing and replacing the City Council Protocol Manual, including the proposed edit to section 2.08 D4 and 8.01 as shown on the screen, including the amendment to 2.08 D4 to have a quarterly option in the last sentence.
I have a motion on the table. Would anybody like to second it?
I'll second.
Did you need some, did that work? Were we okay there?
I'm good if the city clerk is good.
I think it would work. Because we can add the word quarterly, and then we will revise the language. And if you want to do it, well, I agree kind of with Eileen. If you want to do a second motion that just says that they will be canceled, those meetings will be, for school breaks, will be canceled. And do we want to firmly say that they will be the fourth Tuesday of those months?
I think we should plan on that. And if
Okay.
we don't need the meeting, then we won't take it, but we should plan on that. If we're taking one away, we should plan on adding one. Councilmember Dodd, sorry.
So isn't it statute that we meet the first 3 Tuesdays? When we can't have a regular meeting on a fourth Tuesday?
It's your only,
It's our, okay.
do you want to take it?
The protocol manual says that we will meet the first 3 Tuesdays of the month. However,
It's the protocol manual.
if we cancel a meeting, we just need to notice that it's canceled.
It's within your control.
Yeah.
What makes something not a regular meeting is when it's against, so regular meetings are what are defined in your protocol manual. So if we did switch, for example, to say on months with a school, these following school holidays, the meetings will be on the 4th, it would actually be a regular meeting because you'd be following your pattern. What I wanted to note, though, is only one thing to consider, because I'm looking at the school district calendar. Like for next year, for example, spring break is the first week of April. There's 5 Tuesdays in March. So if you just automatically go to the 4th Tuesday, you'll have a 3-week break with no council meeting between your 3rd week of March and the 2nd week of April. So that might be an unintended consequence of being specific, where maybe you want some broader language that says a meeting will be added in replacement on a Tuesday, replacing this meeting.
I like that.
I think we can, if you adopt this as amended, and we can put that broad language in both these sections that would address the 2 areas.
Eileen looks like she needs some Tums.
So we have a motion and a second. Is that good, or do we need to amend that?
Given the council discussion that has occurred after the motion and the second, I would recommend an amendment. Yeah, I would recommend an amendment to the motion.
Councilmember Dodd?
So BMC 2.12.010 says regular meetings shall be held on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Tuesday of each month. So that's what I'm concerned about. Are we not butting up against that if we put 4th Tuesday in there?
Can you state that section again?
So it's 2.12.010. I'm not a lawyer. I remember seeing it in the BMC at some point, and I don't know at what point our protocol manual overrides that. I'm not a fan of saying we do it on the 4th Tuesday. I trust staff to schedule around it, especially as it can change. Like, they put the schedule for the school breaks in a couple years in advance, but like it does change with every union negotiation. But it does say we have set meeting times, and I thought that's what determined a regular meeting versus a special meeting is it at that time in the code. But I just play a lawyer on TV sometimes.
Yeah, those 3 meetings are regular meetings. Like, again, we can, if needed, we can cancel a meeting whenever, as long as we notice it, and then we would have a special meeting for the next.
I think as long as, I don't really care if we call it a regular meeting or a special meeting. I like the idea about being somewhat vague about when we're going to put it, so we can strategize around when the best idea is, like next year, so we don't have to go 3 weeks without meetings. Is there any reason why we need to care if it's called a special meeting or a regular meeting?
So the only difference between a regular meeting and a special meeting is how we do our agendas. So in a regular meeting, you can walk things on. For special meetings, there are special notice requirements, and we cannot add anything that has not been noticed. So there are some constraints when you have a special meeting.
Is there any way to word this so that the meeting that we're replacing
Has been rescheduled to
yes,
next date.
like, is there a way to make it a regular meeting legally if it's on a different day? If there's not, can you bring us an amendment at a later meeting?
I think that's right. I mean, I think that's what we'd be looking at is a BMC amendment rather than a protocol amendment. I mean, again, you guys have special meetings all the time, and it's okay. We figure that out. It's just a matter of making sure we hit all the notice and agenda requirements. So why don't we, I think that's a question for a different day, but we can talk about a BMC amendment and what that would look like.
Okay.
I think we're on the same page about like what to put in the protocol manual. I just meant we can't put, we'll do it on the fourth Tuesday and it's a regular meeting by just being in the protocol manual. It's a nerdy, dumb argument. Like
I'm fully not arguing with
yeah.
you. All right. Who calls the roll?
Are we ready
I'm not
to
used to
vote?
you down there.
I know. Okay. So we have a motion to amend these two sections of the protocol manual, to adopt the protocol manual as amended, including these two sections, language changes to these two sections.
Yes.
Okay. I will call roll now. Please say yes or no when I call your name. Councilmember Anguilari?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Kurd?
Yes.
Councilmember Miles?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember Alcabra?
Yes.
Passes 6-0. And in closing, I will say this is a very old document, so this thing it's old. So our intention is to take everything, and just scrivener's errors, links, clean up the links, make sure the links are current, et cetera, and then have all the new adopted language incorporated.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.